Greetings and welcome back to the lab. Today I want to talk about the coupler for the holiday lights, and this is going to be a little bit of a different video. I've got you're seeing a still picture right now of kind of what it looks like, but we're going to launch into talking about how to build the coupler because I've not really covered it all that well, and I had some time-lapse footage that actually was shot in real time. So I'm going to go back through that and let's just go over how to build it. So let's start right. 3, 2, click. All right. What we're looking at right now is an edit, actually, of that time-lapse footage without any sound because I was listening to music while I was doing it. So here I am emptying out actually the pin headers, and there's an interesting sort of bit about the pin headers here. These are going to go into that, and they actually should go in first. And this was my first mistake, but I think this was literally the first one I was building. And so I'm going to discover that problem soon enough. But I'll tell you, the terminal blocks are what I am currently soldering on. And I believe it's positive on the top and negative on the bottom. Let me see, I actually have one here for reference. Yeah. Positive on the top, negative on the bottom. The top is indicated by the peak of the sort of house shape to this. So that's what you need to know. And when you mount these terminal blocks, you want to mount them with the connection facing outward so you can actually put the wires in. I think at one point I built one of these and I put it in backwards and discovered that it's a little harder to get the wires in when it's backwards. The terminals themselves are not polarized, but you do want to have them facing outward. So here I am finishing up is that the first or the second? That's the second. And then I discover that it's all wonky. So the simple solution to that is to kind of hold it and heat up the connections and then be able to kind of force it the way you want it so it's reasonably straight. It won't be perfect here, but it'll be reasonably straight. So there we go. Now we've got that put on. Oh, I guess I'm going back and trying again. I'll give myself a second to do this. And with that, we're just checking it to make sure things are at least reasonably well done. So now I'm picking up the header, and the story on this is that it's supposed to be a 4-pin header, but I accidentally ordered 5-pin. So all I'm doing is pulling out 1 pin from the bottom. There it goes. Makes that interesting sort of... I'm trying to think of this shape. A trident. But anyway, you put that in, and you want to get... Obviously, there's still 4 pins left in there, and those go into the 4 holes on the board. And now is about when I'm going to discover that I have a problem, is that it's really hard to keep it sitting there with the terminal blocks already mounted because it is a lower profile than the terminal blocks. So I'm going to go grab my wire cutters and use them as just something to prop it up, and we'll get to soldering this in. And first I'm going to go for just 1 pin so I can make sure that it's reasonably well lined up and secured and not sitting too far off the board. I want to keep it reasonable, not just straight, but I want it to sit all the way down. So that's got that. Now that I've got that, I'm going to solder a second one. Now, interestingly enough, you only really need 2 of the 4 pins here, but I elected to go with a 4-pin connector because what I want to do ultimately is make this system both 12 volt and 5 volt compatible. And I'll do that by using 12 volts in one way and 5 volts in another way, in such a way that if you accidentally plug 12 volts into a 5 volt system, you won't burn it out. So I think what I'll do is I'll just have a common ground. So here I am now taking one of the ornaments, and I've already mounted the pin header to that. I'm just double checking that everything is good to go. Oh yeah, I'm also checking to see Since this is the first time I'm putting this together, I'm making sure that I've got positive and negative in the right place before I plug it in, because I don't want to plug it in backwards and then have to build a whole new one. So that will get it plugged in. Now, of course, I don't actually have any power hooked up to this yet, so it doesn't really matter. But I wanted to see how well it worked, and I wanted to see if it lined up so that I can now get the bolts and the nuts in there. And what those do is they give it a mechanical connection. The pin header is only an electrical connection, and it's not going to be super strong. So I wanted to give it reinforcement by using these bolts and nuts. And you'll see me thread the nut on there. And once that nut is on there, we can move on to the next step. Oh yeah, it's a little bit fiddly. So I end up kind of holding it with both hands and trying to get it to thread on. Plus, I'm a klutz, so things don't always go so nicely. Looks like I'm starting to get it. There we go. Now we're going to grab a screwdriver, and we're going to tighten it up. Well, like I said, I'm a klutz. So we're going to tighten it up a bit. Now, if you notice, I'm kind of over-tightening it, and I didn't completely realize that. But it's not the end of the world. It'll bend the pins on the header a little bit. But you'll see me realize that it's not exactly parallel, and you really kind of want it to be parallel. It is strong, but it'll be okay. Ultimately, I can back that out a little bit as long as it's fully threaded into the nut enough. So here I am starting to build another one. And at this point, I've realized I need to do the pin header first. That's all I really wanted to demonstrate with this. So we'll get to soldering the first pin, and you can see it's a lot easier for me to do. So now I've got two of them. What do you think is going to be the next thing I'm going to do? Let's get some wire so we can wire the two of them together. And we'll start with what's going to be my positive wire. Colors are not actually critical. I just chose to use a lighter colored wire for positive and a darker colored wire, the blue in this case, for negative. So once I get those, I can go ahead and mount them on. And now you see me twisting it around. I thought a twisted wire would be better. I'm not 100% sure. I think it'd probably be easier to just use a bunch of cable ties to keep things from sagging on you when you go and mount them somewhere on the house or wherever you're planning on putting this. So here I am putting the positive wire on the positive terminal, which is on the top, and then I've jumped forward to having the negative on there. And I think I've already got the other coupler wired up. Yep. And this is what we call daisy chaining. But now I have this little adapter I built that gives me the 12 volts. I wired it up backwards. But there I am plugging it in, and it proves that this actually works. So that's pretty much all that's necessary. I'm trying to remember what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, I think I got a couple more of them. And I was moving forward to demonstrating that you could wire up a whole bunch of them. But that's pretty much it. So here again is what we started with. This is what it looks like when you wire a whole bunch of them together and in daisy chain. But that is how you build the coupler. And I just wanted to do a separate video just so we'd have this on record so there'd be information for you to be able to build this. So thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a great day.